This episode brought to you by Nicholson Realty 2.0, the Gas City Performing Arts Center, Chuck Sewer, Drain and Plumbing.
Okay, welcome to Garage Talk. We're joined today by Nick McKinley, who represents Indiana Senate District 17 right here in Grant County. McKinley stepped into the role in early 2026 following the resignation of Andy Zay, who is now serving as the chairman of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. Nick brings a background that's rooted locally, law enforcement, small business ownership, and you even served on the Marion City Council. He's not coming here as a career politician. He is someone who's worked in the community and now has a seat at the table where decisions are made that directly affect families, schools, and taxpayers across Grant County and other surrounding counties. And that's exactly what we're getting into today, because right now Grant County is sitting in the middle of some serious conversations. We're talking about TIF districts that are impacting local school funding, the real effects of Senate Bill 1, property tax changes, and whether our schools are being put in a position to succeed or being squeezed slowly. On top of that, there's a growing debate about potential data centers and that development. Big money, big promises, but also big questions about infrastructures, incentives, and who's actually benefiting long term. So today, it isn't all about politics, but it's about clarity and getting informed about your candidate and what it means to people like you and me here in Little Gas City and our surrounding areas. Welcome to the show, Nick McKinley. How we doing, Nick?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. Long time watcher, first time caller. There you go.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Hopefully, you've seen the podcast. You know, we try and do a lot of positivity, but sometimes we have an excuse to have a beer or two.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
I just have the energy drink today. No beer. Yeah.
So I'm going to start off with, because like I said, I want to educate people, and I've had a lot of questions, especially with the school system and the referendum that we're going through and now operational. Could you explain explain it to me like I'm 10?
Yeah. Okay.
The TIF district.
Sure. So TIF districts are designed to help bring investment and development, right? Yeah. And so let me think of how to explain this for a 10-year-old, right? Because it gets really complicated if you don't know how they work. But essentially, if you have land, and let's say there's a structure on that property, it has its assessed value. The county has an assessed value to what that is worth for the county. A TIF district basically takes that land, and whatever the assessed value is at that time.
Let's say it's $10.
It's $10, okay? Any development that, we'll say a redevelopment commission brings, that increases the assessed value over that baseline, let's say $10, then the property tax revenue that would come from that development, the development commission gets to keep that money. It goes into its own redevelopment fund. And the purpose of that is to take that money and then to try and redevelop somewhere else, to try and spur more economic development. So that money that normally would just kind of trickle down to, say, school systems and libraries, all those local entities, it all just get captured by the redevelopment commission.
And so let's say now that makes $100 in property tax. Everybody is getting that $10, but now does that $90 go towards the district itself, like to roads, utilities, stuff like that, in that same area only? Is that correct?
Kind of, yeah. So essentially that excess tax revenue from that development goes into the redevelopment commission's fund.
Okay.
And then they can then use that to maybe buy another property and bring in another investment. And the whole purpose of that, when it was designed a long time ago, was to help redevelop properties and entice businesses with jobs to come into your area to redevelop and then bring up that assessed value of the property. But the lifespan of that TIF or that TIF district, many times 20, 25 years, that redevelopment commission gets to keep that excess above that baseline number and use that for further. It's supposed to spur more economic development. But the law kind of restricts what you can use that for. You are allowed to use some of that TIF money to give to schools. You can now use it for public safety. That was a couple years ago. But majority of that goes back to just spurring more economic development.
Okay. So why doesn't, is there a way we can finagle this to where the schools can get some of that money?
Well,
because I know that sometimes the TIF district, sometimes after the 25 years, they can renew that for another 20 to 25 years. And I think they can only renew it once. Am I incorrect or correct?
I think you're correct on that, but laws can change between now and then. So you don't know what's going to, you can't promise anything 20 years from now. So
you promise that I'll be alive, man.
I know, right? Yeah. So they can renew it, but if they were to renew it, that baseline resets, right?
Yeah.
So if that property is worth $100, then all the property tax revenue under that $100 then trickles down to the schools and all that. And any development above that, they get to capture. But usually, unless there's some huge development, usually those expire because no one's necessarily adding on or expanding their facility after 20 or 25 years. But so the redevelopment commissions can actually make that decision on what they want to spend it on, if they want to use it for schools. But they are limited. They can use it for schools. You would just have to talk to your redevelopment commissions. But they have budgets, and a lot of those dollars are already tied up for current projects or future projects. But they do have the option to use some of that and help out some of the school systems as well.
Do you believe that schools should get a share?
I do. Yeah. Because essentially you're capturing all those tax dollars and it's taking them away from the schools. And however you look at that share, sometimes it's funding to help a certain program. It can even help with career centers. I do believe that some of that should go to schools because essentially we're keeping it from getting to the schools. But the way those are designed and the reason they allow the RDCs to keep that money is because they say, well, if it wasn't for this TIF area in this district, we wouldn't have had that development anyways. But we have that development, and we can use some of that money to then help our schools.
So who kind of holds them accountable to make sure that that money from the TIF district is going back to where it's supposed to go? Well, I mean,
you are regulated. The RDCs are regulated. They have to turn in reports, and there's a whole commission board. There's usually 5 members. They're appointed either partially by a mayor and partially by, say, a council, a city council, or a county council. And then even on the county level, I think they are appointed by the commissioners. So the appointments are made by your elected officials. And their meetings are public. RDC meetings are public meetings too.
Let's say that possibly on down the road that this gets to where a percentage of that money can go back to the school. What do you think that percentage should be?
Well,
all of it. No,
here's the thing: is I think every community is different, and being somebody that's representing the district as a senator. I don't like Indianapolis telling local communities exactly what they need to do with their money. I think that should be a local decision. I'm a local decision person. And so I don't want Indianapolis to say, well, every RDC has to use 30% or 20%.
Yeah.
I think those rules should be set by their own redevelopment commission because I believe that the closer the government is to the person, the better decisions and more reflective of their values are. So in Grant County, that might be a different percentage than, say, Huntington County or Wabash County. So I don't know if there's necessarily a percentage, I would say, because every school system has different needs.
Yeah.
Some school systems are flush with cash because of the way their tax income is coming in. Some school systems, like here in Gas City, they're hurting, and so maybe they need a little more assistance. So I think those things change, and I think the RDC should be able to adapt for their needs.
Good observation. So just to inform everybody, and this is reported, this is data like reported from 2024 into the 2025 report. There's like 1,584 TIF districts in Indiana. And that's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot. That's a lot of TIF money. Total TIF revenue statewide reached approximately $1.34 billion in 2024. That's a lot that I would like to see shared with the schools, but I'm not the one making those calls. So moving on, let's go to Senate Bill 1, man.
Okay.
This is something that's talked
Last
about.
year's Senate Bill 1? Because every year there's a Senate Bill 1.
Yeah.
But you're talking about the one that
the
was
one
the
that's
property tax?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
This year's Senate Bill 1 was different. Yeah.
Yes. So that property tax law, what was that meant to fix?
Well, I think a lot of people are frustrated. They've seen their property taxes going up, and I think it was designed to give relief for property tax owners. Home values have gone up, and when home values and assessed values go up, generally their property taxes go up. And some of that's just the demand on housing and just inflation. But people were having problems with their property taxes, and rightfully so. I know I've talked to many people that saw a 30-40% increase in their property taxes. That's a big hit when you've done nothing. You just live there, right? Mm-hmm. Your wages didn't go up 30 to 40%, but your property taxes went up. So that was an issue. And so I think it was an attempt to try and slow that down and fix that. But not everyone's going to see that relief, though, because if you understand how property taxes work, you have circuit breakers. You can only pay so much of what your assessed property tax is. And so the Senate Bill 1 that was designed to bring your property taxes down, some people, they may not even see a change because they're already capped out at the lowest tax they can already pay.
So it's supposed to be like a relief.
It's a relief for property tax, yeah.
For Senate Bill 1 this year that's affecting the school, we're seeing less operation money for the school. How is that?
Well, let me add something. So Senate Bill 1 this year was the Medicaid fix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was getting rid of the junk food out of food stamps, right?
Yeah.
So, but yes, last year's was property tax relief, but that property tax relief, right? Mm-hmm. If you lower property taxes, well, those property taxes, a portion of them, a lot of it goes towards your schools, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. We wanted to lower property taxes, but then that means decreased funding for the schools as well. So that's the dilemma that we found ourselves in. I wasn't down there for that vote. I wasn't in the Senate yet, but I was very familiar with it because I was the president of the Marion City Council at the time, and we were navigating those waters as the bill was going through the Senate and the House.
So, side note, you specifically as a candidate, were you prepping yourself as before you were caucused in? Like, hey, I know that Senate Bill 1 is a real big issue. I better get versed in it before I step into Andy Zay's seat.
No, this is my experience.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I was the city council president in Marion when that all went through, and that's the fiduciary body of the city of Marion, the largest one in the county. So I lived it, ate it, and breathed it because we were looking at projections of of tax revenue over the next couple of years. And so when you're passing a budget on a city council, you know, we have certain projects, things we want to do, but if we don't think we're going to have the money to continue those in 3, 4, 5 years, that may make us make different decisions now. And so we had to know, we were looking at the projections of what that effect was going to be on the city of Marion last year, last year. So we knew how to better plan long term. So that's my experience. I came from the city council, being the city council president. I ran all the budget committee meetings, and working with the mayor, Mayor Morrell, we were constantly evaluating Senate Bill 1 and how it was going to impact the city of Marion.
Do you think lawmakers at that time expected school losses? Because I know that there's some talk about, like, on down the road, schools are going to suffer and figure out how to keep the doors open if they were thinking consolidation of those schools into another school district. Do you think that, I mean, we're speculating what they
there's
thought.
speculation. I don't know what the thought process was downstate. I can just tell you what we were experiencing here. And like, I'm a little overdressed for the garage today. I just left a meeting with Jeremy Fuel. He's the superintendent of Miss Sinawal Schools, and I had another meeting with.
I think I know that guy.
Yeah, I think you know that name, right? Yeah, you probably worked with him a little bit. Yeah.
I
I had a meeting this morning with the Madison Grant superintendent as well, Ben, and I have meetings with, I think, about every superintendent in my school district to understand how Senate Bill 1 affected them. But I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate what their thought process was down there. I just know that it is forcing a lot of hard conversations. And maybe there was some tightening of the ship, so to speak. Maybe there were some dollars that can be cut from some of the budgets. But every school is different. And every school's tax assessed value in their area is different. Just sitting with Jeremy, went over all the numbers, and there's a certain number of dollars per student.
Yes.
And Miss Sinawal Schools is towards the bottom. They get some of the least amount of funding per student, and that's just because of the tax design in this district. And so we have to get it right. And to be frank with you, that's one of the many reasons that motivated me to want to put in for this and be a state senator. Is I was on the other side as a local elected official. And I wanted my voice to be heard. Maybe I didn't necessarily feel like I was heard. Had some conversations, but I want to be part of the solution. So my experience with local government the last couple of years, I think, prepares me to have those discussions downstate, gives me some credibility. I was on that other side. I've talked to all the school superintendents that are managing these tight budgets. And I'm glad. I'm hearing there are some cuts being made. That's great. You know, sometimes things get too bloated in certain schools.
A revision? Some revisions?
Maybe, but not. But again, there are some schools that are already operating on a tight budget. And then Senate Bill 1 comes through, and you go, I have nowhere else to squeeze. And so it's different for every school system. And that's the hard part about Indianapolis, is a lot of decisions are made down there that they think are going to be great for everyone. Well, they're not always great for everyone, because every community is a different dynamic. And Senate Bill 1 affected everyone totally different.
Schools are projected to lose $744.4 million over the next 3 years. The largest hit will be in 2028, and that's $336 million. Schools rely on property tax for transportation, facilities, operations. Many districts have and are considering staff cuts and program cuts, which I hate to hear, because I am a little bit biased towards Mrs. Sinawal. I feel like we're a very, very reputable school.
It's a fantastic school system, and here's the truth of the matter is, there might be some property tax relief, right? You talk about that's how much they're going to lose. Technically, that's how much our taxpayers are saving, right? That's less tax dollars being pulled out of our pocket, but that means it's less tax dollars going to the schools. The truth of the matter is, you have certain school systems that, just to keep the lights on, have to do an operating referendum, or just to keep the buses going. It's happening. Or you guys are looking at that here. If an operating referendum goes through, well, did we really save our taxpayer dollars money? Because then they're having to pay more money. The other part of it is when you come to local government, Senate Bill 1 allowed the local governments to increase the local income tax. So if they were to increase it or implement it, then you're pulling out of people's paychecks. And I just have a problem with all of this, right? I think Senate Bill 1 was well intended for property tax relief, but the mechanisms to replace that, I just don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
Because here we are, local cities are looking at maybe increasing income tax. But if you're renting, you're actually in a net loss. Because if you're renting, you're not paying property tax.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The owner of the property is.
Yeah, do you think the owner of the property is going to go, hey, I'm going to lower your rent because I just saved some? No, they're going to make more money. But if you're renting and then you get this increase in your income tax, you're in a loss. And I actually think it hurts lower to middle income earners more. And so that's the frustration I had with it. I love the fact that we're seeing some property tax reductions, but people have to decide, what am I willing to give up? And that's where I just want to be part of that solution, be part of that conversation down there next year.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I share this all the time with my friends about if Indiana is funding enough with the balance between giving public schools more money and giving charter schools vouchers. So I have a soft spot in my heart for education. I want my full intention was to have all three of my daughters be 3 times smarter than I am, and that wasn't hard to do. But they did it. My oldest one, my middle one's very intelligent as well, and my 3-year-old is showing I'm just going to be honest. Yeah. She's smarter than I am. But I think the private schools, I'm going to keep my comments to myself.
Okay.
But this is my personal, we had a tragedy happen here in Gas City with a homeschooled child. I would like to see more oversight with homeschooled children, just checking on their well-being to make sure that all of that is happening. But that's for another episode.
Okay.
So we're gonna move on to what does that mean for Grant County schools, and what do you fix first as soon as you get reelected?
Well, next year is a budget year, and when almost half your state budget goes to education, there's no way you can ignore it. And that's the reason I'm meeting with all these superintendents starting there. I'm meeting with directors of the career centers. I'm also meeting with directors of some of the private schools as well, understanding what's going on there. I'm going to try and set up some meetings with maybe some of the homeschool groups, because I just want to understand the dynamic of just education and schooling, right? And so when your budget's almost 50% of education, we've got to get it right. And so we have to get the budget right next year and make sure our schools are properly funded. And I mean schools very plural, like just schools. Private, public. At the end of the day, we want our kids to have the best education that they can. Our numbers keep sliding in America. I don't know what we're at now, probably 43rd on the list of the best education in the world, and we're America, right? And so, it's making our taxpayer dollars go the furthest for the best education. There are some school systems that maybe are bloated, and they can cut, or they're about to build a $30 million stadium that they don't necessarily need, right? When I growing up, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember, your facilities weren't NBA level facilities, right? And that some of these schools are going that way, and there's just too much spend on that. But when you say, what are we going to do first? We've got to figure out our funding for education. We've got to figure out how to tweak and fix Senate Bill 1, because next year is our first real opportunity. This last session was a short session. You don't really have time to fix those things. But next year is that first session post Senate Bill 1 to fix that. And at the end of the day, just like you talked about how passionate you are with your kids and their education.
Yes.
They are our future.
Exactly.
And they have to get the best education. And when I say education, it's not just, reading a book. It's the influence that the teachers have. It's the social dynamics that they learn at school. Maybe the sports that they play that teach them how to be a leader or how to be coachable. It's the whole package you get at a school that we have to focus on, make sure everyone's getting a balanced education and the right influence from their teachers. But funding that is really, really important, and we can't take our eye off of that.
Okay, before you commit to this is
Okay.
this is a yes or no question. Are schools falling behind? Are they falling behind because of these policies? Is there a maybe coming?
It depends where. We may be on a different train of thought of what falling behind is. We have some of the best teachers, and really, my wife is a teacher, so she teaches at a career center. She's a nurse. She teaches CNA students, and she loves what she does.
I have a high regard for nurses and nurse practitioners and doctors.
So she's a nurse and a teacher at the same time, right?
Wow.
So, so I hear about it every day. And there really isn't a yes or no on that. I think it depends who you ask. What I think a lot of the issues we face, when I say we as a community, because it is a community issue, but what teachers face is home life. So if they don't have the structure at home and the safety net at home, and they go to school, it's like that hierarchy of needs, right? Like if they don't have that at home, then they're going to school, they're probably not as focused on their education. And so home life, family life, a lot of times can impact their ability to be engaged in school. I deal with it. My wife deals with it, right? And I think that has impacted schools over a long period of time, and I call it the breakdown of the family unit. And I don't mean unit meaning like you got to have everybody there, but God bless our grandparents, but there's a lot of kids being raised by grandparents.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, right, and living somewhere else, and they're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But not every child has that. They don't have grandparents to go to, right? They're just kind of left to their own, and then they go to school. All they're worried about is, what am I going to eat tonight?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be yelled at and abused when I get home? And when you have that, that's what's hurting. When you say, are they falling behind? I think our teachers are doing a fantastic job. They're doing the best that they can with the tools that they're given.
Yeah. The teachers are doing phenomenal.
Yes.
But are these policies that are in place, are they constricting them from helping them complete it? Now, the home life thing, anything that's 0%, it should be 0%. But we have great grandparents raising kids now in the school system,
or siblings.
Yes, and I know Mrs. Sinowal well, and I don't even like repeating the percentage of kids that go to school here that don't live with an immediate family member.
Yeah.
It's any number is too high of a number.
Well, and God bless the families that are taking these kids in. We've done it. My wife and I lived it. We had somebody live with us their senior year because their home life fell apart, and we gave them that structure their senior year. So I've lived it.
Yeah.
And we gave them that stability to be able to just focus on their education. But, the teachers, sometimes their hands are tied, and there's only so much you can do sometimes because you have to teach a whole class. And if you have one or two people that really need your attention more, you have to balance that. Like, well, I have a whole class here to teach, but but I've got one or two that are struggling the most. And there's no perfect answer to it.
There's not. There's not a perfect answer.
Yeah.
But as technology is booming, I've walked the halls of Mississinawa, and I thought, man, the opening and closing of lockers is not there anymore because there's no books.
You're right.
It's all iPad and Mac Air and what does Android have? I'm
Samsung.
Samsung.
I'm an Android guy.
I'm an Apple guy. I'm an Apple. Everything's linked at my house.
Yeah.
So I want to. This is the perfect segue into data centers.
There you go. A good segue. Yeah.
So, how do you feel? Do you support or do you feel like do you oppose the data centers locally here that are growing in the surrounding counties? And, I would love to say they're whispers, but they're not, because I hear a lot of people talking here in Grant County. That is a worrisome subject.
Okay.
That people have.
Yeah. I will tell you this. I have more questions than answers. And I think that's where a lot of us sit. When I was on the city council in Marion, there was nothing presented to us. I signed no NDAs. I've seen it all out there, right? I probably know, I'm trying to think, the same as everybody else on the internet. Maybe I hear a little bit more closer to me some of the rumors that are being spread, because everybody wants to tell me the rumors or whatever they see on the internet.
Yeah. Because all that stuff's true.
I have, all right, if it's on the internet, it's true, right? Or if ChatGPT tells me, then it's true, which that's a whole other story of people using ChatGPT to talk bad about data centers. You're encouraging data center use if you're using AI. But anyways, I have
my daughter schooled me on that. She's like, you better stop using AI right now.
It's coming from a data center, right? That's increasing the demand. So I have more questions than answers. I really don't have an answer because I don't know any more than the rest of us, other than I know it's a potential, right? And usually, and I'll just speak in general terms with development.
Okay.
Okay, so those that are in Marion probably saw the mayor share about maybe the expansion of the shopping center by TJ Maxx. Did you see that?
Yes.
Right, so there's a potential expansion of that shopping center. Well, that started a year ago. I was part of that a year ago. But there was no public discussion because there was no deal. We didn't know. It was just they were interested in expanding it. But there was no concrete conversation to have because it was like, well, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. But that was all private, right? That's privately owned land. That developer had to either purchase that land, lease it, or whatever it was. That was a private transaction. Mm-hmm. And there's really nothing the city had anything to do with on that, because you can go down and buy a building and put a business in it. And if you need a zoning change, you go to the BZA or go to the city. Mm-hmm. But on the data center stuff, I've heard the same things you've all heard, possible location, where they're at. I bring up the TJ Maxx expansion there because if it's all still in private hands, that's still a private interaction, and that's maybe why we don't know much yet.
Yeah.
Because if there is a company looking at buying land, that's still private. Now, I've heard the rumors about annexation, all that. That I can't speak to because I don't know. So I have more questions than answers.
Yeah.
I have the same concerns on power consumption, water consumption, what it does to water, land. I have those same questions. I just don't have the answers because I'm not an expert in what that water does when it cools and then goes back out.
Yeah.
And I can read things that everyone else is reading and do the research, but I don't have a concrete opinion on what's true and what's not.
Yeah. One of the local candidates who's running for county commission, he made me think about something because it's every time I open my phone, you need to update. You need to update this. You need to update that, or your app glitches. What happens when the data center needs an update? And this is all hypothetical, and I'm probably feeding in to my own conspiracy thoughts because I get that way once in a while. I start digging. I go down a rabbit hole, but what is keeping them from saying, okay, this is outdated. We're now going. I think if this is out of our control and something happens, I think there needs to be something in place where they clean up their own mess, and they are held accountable, and they need to I'm throwing out they, and I don't even know who they are, whether they're a foreign company or one that's U.S. based. But I think there needs to be some ordinances and things of that nature. Like you come here, and I guess because Grant County is so full of prime farmland, it'd be such a shame to let that go. I mean,
Well, and here's what I'll tell you: as a state senator, I'm all about local control, and I believe that the local electeds should make those decisions. Any kind of development, there needs to be some guardrails, right?
Yeah.
If somebody wants to open a landfill, well, that probably needs to be vetted really well, right? You don't want a landfill, put right next to, a water filtration plant, right? I mean, there has to be safeguards no matter what kind of development you have. But I believe those are best made at a local level. As a state senator, I don't support legislation downstate that's going to take that away. And believe me, there has been legislation that has been presented that I don't support and hasn't been passed, at least since I've been in the Senate. Coming from being a local elected official, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made that I don't want people in Indianapolis to make that decision. Now, granted, as a state senator, I represent us in Indianapolis, but the group of legislators down there can make collective decisions that negatively impact local electeds' ability to make decisions. I'll give you an example. So there was a bill this last session I voted against, and it was to remove or to eliminate the public school board in Indianapolis and make them appointees. I don't care what side of the fence you're on, I just couldn't support it because you're essentially taking away your local electeds and the people that voted for them, their voice. Whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent, they should still have that vote. And so that's kind of where I voted against it. It ended up passing. I was on the minority side of that vote, but it passed, and I just couldn't vote for it because it took away local control, and I just don't support that. And so when it comes to these data centers or any other development, even outside of data centers, you have your area plan commissions, your BZA, you have your commissioners, you have your city councils and mayors, your county councils. Those are the ones that are the closest to the people and making those decisions, and I respect their decisions and whatever decisions they make because they are representing those that elected them.
I think that the economic benefit versus the community impact is what really gets me thinking about it, because in this day and age, I don't know if you've been to Walmart lately grocery shopping, but me and my family go through there, and I feel like I'm the only one that says "excuse me" anymore.
Yeah.
That's another conversation.
Yeah.
But I care for my neighbor. I care for the person down the street, and that's something I don't even know how that happened. But I just became a compassionate person, and I understand. I understand this community. Gas City is a wonderful place to live. Great people. we can strangle each other once in a while, but we're always there to help each other out when we're in need. You know, the energy infrastructure strain, that kind of gets me because, you know, you look at, I've done some research on data centers, and some of those data centers need 12 million gallons of water a day to cool off those components, and that just seems like a lot. Who's going to pay for that? Who's, you know, ultimately at the end.
But we have to be careful too, because the internet can be our friend and our foe, right? And I don't know what to believe. I mean, it's called confirmation bias. You can find information that will support your stance on both sides of that. And it's like, what's in the middle and what's the truth, right? Yeah. And so you can find things that are really scary. I can find something right now that says this energy drink is going to give me a heart attack in 10 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Maybe it will. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or the metal that's in it is going to give me cancer, right? I can find that information if I want it. But then I can also find information that says all the vitamins that are in it, the vitamin B6 and B12, are really good for me. Right, and so we have to have a conversation as a community of what makes sense, and that's where I say those that are elected closer to the people, your city councils, your mayors, your county elected officials, those are the ones that need to have their pulse on the ground, or feeling the pulse on the ground of what's good, but also making educated decisions, because you can find information from data centers from 10 years ago that are using 12 million gallons. Well, what's the technology today? I don't know. And I'm not saying this in a supportive way. I'm just saying any development decision, even if it's a manufacturing facility that's going to bring 100 jobs, you need to do your homework. And I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, I think, this is before I was on the city council in Marion, there was a company, I don't want to say their name, but they were a metal recycling company. And those that are watching that live in Marion definitely remember, especially if you lived on the west side. That metal recycling company came to Marion. They didn't fully disclose what all they were going to do. In fact, they made it sound like it wasn't going to be that bad as far as noise. Well, the next thing you know, they're unloading semi-truck fulls of rims on concrete next to a residential neighborhood. And those poor people on the west side of Marion were just listening to that day in and day out. And it really affected their quality of life. It was bad. I mean, I went out, when I got on the council, I went out and met with some of them, and just it was bad. A lot of them had to go to counseling. I mean, it affected their psyche, because at 2 a.m, they hear metal clanging all over the place. That's an example of, you know, I don't want to say that the people in office at the time didn't do their homework, but you just have to be very, very careful of any development that comes, because the companies that want to come, they're not going to tell you the bad stuff. They want to come and they just want to go, look, we're perfect for you guys. Well, because, they have an interest of being there.
It's like a first date.
Right, right. Yeah, once you move in together, that's when you know what they're really like, right? So when the company moves in, you're going, oh, they snore loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, theoretically. So every decision has to be vetted, and I leave it to the local electeds here to do that and make sure they're making good, solid decisions for the community on a lot of aspects. You know, they also have to look out for property tax revenue and jobs.
Which they would probably get, like tax abatements, tax incentives, and stuff like that. That, again, going back to the schools wouldn't be able to see for a while.
Right. So the school's going to get anything out of it. You know, if it's in the TIF area, then and maybe not. But again, that comes down to those local electeds or those boards and commissions to make those decisions.
Okay. Now it's time for this segment. This is rapid fire.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Where's the fireworks at? We're in the garage. You can't do that.
No, fire hazard. Okay. If you could redirect $1 from anywhere in the system straight into the schools, where would you be taking it from?
Start. If I were to take from one and put it into the schools.
Yeah. Who's losing $1?
Oof.
That's a rough one.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that answer. That's not. Just. Oh man, probably. How about government employees take home vehicles?
Ooh, I like that. All right. Rapid fire number 2. It's a little bit of a pressure test. Be honest. What's more stressful for a school district right now? TIF or SEA1? Or both equally?
More stressful. I got to pick from one. I'm probably going to say SEA1.
Okay. All right. I know we've beat it. We've beat around the bush here for a minute. So if you get one sentence to convince a Gas City resident about data centers being a good idea or being a bad idea. So you get to argue one side. Pick a side, good idea or bad idea. Give me one sentence.
I have to pick one?
Yeah.
So I could argue both sides, but for fun, right?
Yeah, for fun.
Gosh, man, you really put me on this one. One sentence. Make sure that you listen, but speak to your local electeds about where you stand on data centers, and make sure that you are involved in every one of those decisions so that your voice is heard.
And that's the one you're sticking with, you know?
Well, I mean,
yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, if you do not want them, then let them know. But listen, but more importantly, make sure your voice is heard, and do your due diligence yourself, and be involved. That's the problem, is people just don't get involved. Talk to your local electeds, get involved, and do your homework. They're your electeds. They're supposed to listen to you.
And don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid. Right now is an important time for us in this upcoming election. I know a lot of us back a candidate, but we should do our part and educate ourselves and understand what's going on, the issues that we're facing, and then go from there. And don't just go up to the polls and start picking people randomly. Try and do some homework. Find out who's on, who you're going to be voting for, and make an informed decision. Yeah. And make it count. Make your vote count. Ain't that right, Nick?
That is right. And if I could add one thing, something to keep in mind too is that when you're down at the state Senate, you have hundreds of bills presented to you every session. So it's very, very important that whoever's representing you is versatile, because this is where I say data centers are an important decision. Your locals need to make the decision. But most of the bills downstate don't involve data centers, right? And you have to be versatile, understand how budgets work. You got to understand what is the SBOA, what's a DLGF. You have to be versatile. You have to be ready, and choose the candidate that you think, in any position, that you think is the most qualified to handle the adversity and all the bills and the budgeting that's going to come your way. So the state Senate deals with a lot of different bills. And as a senator, we can propose some bills. We can do amendments to bills. But you have to be versatile. You have to be ready to go. I have that experience. So
I
I'll break it
probably
down
know
there.
this answer, but it just came into my head. Does government know better than its constituents?
No. I'll expand on. That's why I'm meeting with the superintendents. I'll give you an example. There was a bill in Indianapolis that was about criminalizing homelessness. It was an Indianapolis problem. People were camping out and wouldn't move, right? It was an issue. It was an issue. I have my own opinions. I was a police officer before, and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But I reached out to all my sheriffs, meaning our sheriffs, right, in 3 different counties, and asked them what their opinion was on the bill. How do they want me to vote? Because that was going to impact the sheriff's departments probably more than anybody else. And so I asked them the day of the vote, please tell me how you want me to vote. What do you want? And I respected what they wanted. I voted no because that's what my sheriffs wanted. And that is, for me, listening to the experts in their field, listening to the people and what they want. That's what I'm committed to. Just listening to the people, staying engaged, getting in front of people, having this conversation with you. Mm-hmm. You're on a school board, right?
Yes.
So you have an opinion. I just met with your superintendent. I met with another superintendent. I have another meeting tomorrow because I want to make sure that not only am I making good decisions for the schools, but I'm building relationships. I'm starting those partnerships. Every one of them has my cell phone number. That way, when we get to these decisions, I know exactly who to ask because those superintendents are the ones making those financial decisions. So it's just, you got to stay engaged, you got to stay plugged in, you got to listen to the people in your district.
Thank you, Nick, for coming into the garage